Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Pride of the Poconos podcast. I am your host, Zach Sterniolo, joined as always by Mike Coons and Shawn Suchy, getting ready for another episode of our football picks. Guys, how you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having us.
Well, I mean, you're kind of here. It just works out that way. Mike, how are you?
I was good until Arizona lost last night, but other than that, I'll sit here and look at you guys in your 7-3 weeks. And he's got his Eli Manning jersey or T-shirt on there. Here we go.
It's partially mourning Sunday's loss and looking forward to to next week's game against Tampa. So
good luck.
Yeah, I know. As you touched on it, Shawn and I both went 7-3 this week, and you went 6-4. We all lost against. We all took Pleasant Valley to take down Pocono Mountain West. That didn't work out. Pocono West won that one 41-34. We all took Oklahoma State to beat TCU, and TCU pulled off a huge upset there, 44-31. Steelers fell to the Bears in overtime, 23-17. That one was a painful one. And Mike, your extra loss there last night, Monday night, Cardinals against the Cowboys.
They are who we thought they were. That's all I have to say, Dennis Green.
Yeah.
We let him off the hook.
It looked great that first half for you. But then Dallas kind of woke up a little bit and ran away with 28-17.
Hey, if you want to go and crown their ass. Go ahead. I'm not going to.
Beautiful. All right, so... Well, we're 50 games into our picks here so far this season. Shawn, no surprise, leading the way. He is 39-11 on the season so far. Mike, you're sitting second, 35-15, and I am comfortably in the caboose, 33-14. I'm not totally out of it yet, but the engine's kind of running away.
Yes, 7-3 might be good for Zach, but I'm pretty disappointed in that 7. So I hope to be back in the 8+ range coming up.
Listen, you just broke 10 losses for the first time this season this week. So I was there last week. So we're getting there. All right. Well, we are halfway through the high school football season now, and a couple surprises so far. On top of the EPC North, not a surprise. Stroudsburg is sitting at 4-1, but right behind them is Pocono Mountain East, who is 3-2, coming off of 3 consecutive wins. I don't think any of us would have seen this coming 5 weeks ago. Would either of you have seen this coming?
Shawn Suchy is speechless. Write this down. He's not sure he's ever seen anything like this before, being the Pocono Mountain graduate that he is. But you know what? Hey, credit to them. Partial look at their schedule, if you will. Hey, they got 3 wins against 3 teams that they probably should be beating, in past years. Looking 10 years and beyond, they beat these kinds of teams. So they're back. Let's just put it that way. Rob Molosky's done a great job with the program. Can't say enough about Dylan Rinker and what he's done at quarterback. The receiver Hillman's done a really nice job. Praise Andrews running the ball. The defense, Jacob Keene is back and healthy at middle linebacker, who, by the way, if you haven't seen him play, he really physical linebacker. Yeah. Real nice player. So I think him in the middle gives them an added dimension that maybe they didn't have for a couple of weeks while he was hurt. But probably beat the teams that they should have so far. Now we'll see as the schedule gets tougher how they hold up.
Further down the list, Allentown Central Catholic sitting third, also 3-2, but right behind them at 2-3 is East Stroudsburg South. Their 2 wins against Pocono East and Allentown Central Catholic. Then Deeriff, Pleasant Valley, William Allen, and Pocono Mountain West all sitting at 1-4, and East Stroudsburg North in the basement at 0-5. So with that, let's take a look to our first games of the second half of the season. We've got another full slate of games. This first one, between our 2 leaders in the EPC North, Stroudsburg is going to be on the road at Pocono Mountain East this weekend. Shawn, we'll start with you. Who have you got in this one?
Yes, a huge game for Pocono, but I got to go with Stroudsburg in this one. I just see more depth for the Mounties defensively. Their defense could give the Cardinals a big challenge. If Stroudsburg can shut down Andrews, could be a long day for Pocono Mountain, but they could keep it close if they can move the ball around a little and play some defense. But I got to go with the Mounties.
Mike, who have you got here?
Yeah, I have Stroudsburg too, and I think that the story for me is Stroudsburg's offensive line. While I just got done crediting, the job that Keene's done at middle linebacker, and he has done a great job at middle linebacker, Stroudsburg's offensive line is going to have a noticeable size advantage against Pocono Mountain's front three. They run that 3-4 stack defense. The defensive ends for Pocono are a little bit undersized compared to what Stroudsburg's going to roll out there at tackle and Whitewood and Gutierrez. So I think Stroudsburg's offensive line is probably the reason why they're going to win this football game.
I'm going with the Mounties here as well. First, I have to praise Andrews. I think he's run for over 600 yards combined over his last 3 games alone. Right now, he's leading R6 area schools with 818 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns this season through 5 games. I don't see him putting up those kinds of numbers against Stroudsburg. I think their defense is way too potent right now. Zach Smith and Ben Stokes are doing just incredible work at the linebacker spot, and that defensive front has been tough to penetrate for a lot of teams this season. So I think Pocono East has done a great job with what they've had and managing what they've done over the last 5 games. They've managed to put points on the board no matter who they're playing. But with that said, I think this winning streak comes to an end on Friday night against the Mounties. So let's move on to our next game. We've got Allentown Central Catholic 3-2 at East Stroudsburg North, who is sitting at 0-5. Mike, I'll start with you here. Who have you got?
Well, I'm going to take Central Catholic. I've been kind of talking about the running game that Bachman has. The tailback position at ACC. The quarterback is good. Has a couple of receivers, but I think East Stroudsburg North is really just in a situation right now where they're rebuilding. I know that we've sang this song before, but it's true. You just kind of have to get some game experience. They're going to take their lumps this year. They're probably going to play some players who maybe traditionally haven't been varsity players in the past that they're playing. David Castillo's doing a nice job up there, but he's just playing some young, inexperienced people right now. And, if you're going to take some lumps at a season like this, that's okay if it pays off in the long run, and that's probably what he's looking at right here.
I'm going with the Vikings here as well. North is just, I know I've said this probably for the last 2 or 3 weeks at least, they are trying to find themselves right now. I think they're still trying to work out a lot of kinks with this new offense. They're trying to build some sort of stability and try to maintain some sort of consistency. They haven't been able to find any so far this year, whether it's been passing the ball too much or trying to run the ball too much. They haven't been able to find that balance. They haven't had too much success one way or the other, and they've really been only in contention to win 2 of their 5 games so far, notably Deereth and Allen, losing 30-18 and 20-13 respectively. So it's been a tough going for the Timberwolves, and I don't see it getting any easier against ACC here. Shawn, who have we got here?
Yeah, I'm going with ACC also. North continues to struggle offensively. They didn't put up much of a fight against Stroudsburg, and ACC has a pretty good defense, so it could be another tough week for the Timberwolves.
Yeah, 2 first downs in that game against Stroudsburg on Friday night. That was tough going. That was a 54-7 loss there as well. Let's move on to our next game. We've got Pleasant Valley on the road at East Stroudsburg South. Touched on Pleasant Valley earlier. They fell to Pocono Mountain West 41-34. East Stroudsburg South fell to Nazareth, I believe, 32-14. Shawn, we'll start with you here. Who have you got?
I got to go with South. PV decimated by injuries this year. Hopefully their quarterback Keys can recover from his injury, but I got to go with South, coming off a good win against ACC, and they were in the game with Nazareth until the 3rd quarter, so pretty good effort there on the road. But I'm going with the Cavaliers.
Mike, who have you got in this one?
Yeah, I like the Cavaliers as well. I feel, first of all, for Pleasant Valley, that's just a tough situation with all the starters that they have out of the lineup, and then losing Keys last week to injury. Don't know the situation as far as how long he's going to be out, if it'll be lengthy or not. But looking at East Stroudsburg South, I think the emergence of their run game with Shawn Solomon and, what he's been able to do in relief of Ryan Clark, that's kind of turned into a nice 1-2 punch, if you will. It's almost like a little NFL-ish, Show me an NFL team that there's very few that just have one running back that they rely on. They rely on that second guy for a change of pace so they can give the other guy a break kind of thing. So really, Ryan Clark and Shawn Solomon have really worked into be a nice pair and I think they, in a sense, maybe push each other for success because they both have seen the other succeed. And it's like kind of one of those deals like, hey, you want to beat your brother at whatever he's done. So it's turned into a nice thing for them. So I'm going to go with the Cavaliers.
And to that point, Mike, Shawn Solomon sitting second in our area in rushing yards with 573 rushing yards. Ryan Clark sitting fourth with 325 rushing yards. So obviously they are really feeding off of each other. They've been able to find something that's working very well for that team right now. And again, against the Pleasant Valley team, Coach Mark Versick told our colleague Patrick Campbell that 21 of his 21 starters have been injured this season and are now out. It's tough to do anything with that kind of wear and tear on your team. I feel terrible for Pleasant Valley right now because obviously it's just such a tough spot to be in. But I think East Stroudsburg South is going to come in here and just do what they've done this season and come out and take another win here. And so let's move on now to our next game. We've got Allen on the road at Pocono Mountain West. Shawn, we'll start with you again here. What you got?
I'm going with West because last year they beat Allen twice. So Coach McCarroll knows, and the Panthers know the winning formula against Allen.
I can't disagree with that. Both teams 1-4 heading into this one, but West coming off of its first win of the season last week against Pleasant Valley. I think they make it 2 in a row here. I think that they've got what it takes to handle Allen here again. You look at Dylan Delavallee, he's 69 for 132 this season passing, 781 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, leading our area in the passing category. I don't see any reason for them not to come away with a win here. Mike, who do you have?
And I'm going to repeat myself with what South has in the running game. Pocono West is very similar with Jonathan St. Hilaire and Matt Mussenden. I mean, both those guys ran for over 100 yards in the win against Pleasant Valley last week. It's a very similar situation with what East Stroudsburg has. And you know what? Sometimes that works for teams, and it works for West. They've found a way to make a crowded backfield work. They're both very capable backs. They're going to play. They're both going to see time. They're both going to get the ball the rest of the year as long as they're healthy. So I think West wins this game.
And to that point, Mussenden now 54 carries on the season, 280 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns for him. So a very solid season for him so far. Let's move on to Division II college football. We've got East Stroudsburg University on the road this week at Cheney. Both teams 1-3. Shawn, we'll start with you here. Who do you have?
Going with the Warriors because I think it's a must-win game for them. They don't want to be on a 4-game losing streak if they lose this game because I don't know if you guys know, but the Marauders are coming to town next week.
Of course, and, Millersville.
Yeah, Millersville looking pretty good this year. Could
Mike's over there in agony.
The Warriors fall this week. It could be a really bad look for them with Millersville coming.
Mike, response?
Bite your tongue. We ain't afraid of no Millersville Marauders football team. Right there, said and done. I'm a part of the red, I'm still wearing the red jersey from 1991, but that's all right. Anyhow, listen, Cheney is East Stroudsburg University's only lost once to Cheney. Once. In the history, so this is not happening. Okay, so there's not going to be any illusion there. And when Millersville comes to town next week, don't worry, you're going to get yours. I'm talking to Shawn.
ESU coming off an ugly 40-0 loss to Shippensburg last week, but I think we kind of knew to expect that, or at least I don't think we expected them to get shut out, but we knew that Shippensburg was going to handle them fairly well. So I think ESU is going to come out here looking to perform on the field. I don't think Coach Denny Dowds is going to stand for last week too long, so I would be shocked to see anything other than an ESU win this weekend. Let's move on to Division I football. We've got 2 games on the slate. Let's take a look first at Indiana at Penn State. Penn State's 4-0, Indiana 2-1. A Big Ten matchup. Shawn, who have you got?
Penn State survived a little scare last week. Last play of the game, they won that one. I got to go with Penn State. This week, Barkley is looking amazing. Can't really remember a running back that has looked so well between the tackles and also making the edge for him, and also a pass catcher. So I just got to go with the Nittany Lions here.
Mike, we'll go to you next. Who have you got here?
Well, I have Penn State, and they survived their scare on the road in the Big Ten, with Iowa last week. Everyone knows that it's tough to win in the Big Ten on the road. Well, Iowa proved that once again. So Penn State goes back home, and they lean on Barkley, who's averaging 7.8 yards per carry. He leads the team in rushing yards. He leads the team in receiving yards. This guy does it all. There's a reason why he's being talked about in the Heisman Trophy race. He's a once every 25-year kind of back that a program might get. He's special. He's special. His ability to stop and start and change direction is they're just so few and far between.
Right.
So, but Penn State's going to win this game. Indiana, they're 2-1, but they really haven't beaten anyone. Their one loss is to Ohio State to start the season, 49-21. I think it's probably a similar score Saturday.
I'm going Penn State here as well. Just to kind of wrap that up on Barkley, to me, he looks every part of an NFL running back at this point. I mean, he's sturdy, he takes the hits, and he's so athletic with the kinds of moves that he makes. Running between the tackles, hurdling guys seemingly every week. I mean, it's crazy to watch. He really is that special of a running back. It's really, really fun to watch him out there. Indiana, I'm sure they're going to want to perform well against a Big Ten rival, but Penn State, I agree, is going to handle them fairly easily here, I would imagine anyway. Let's move on to our next game. We've got Clemson at Virginia Tech. Both teams 4-0 here, but obviously Clemson still up there in the AP poll rankings. Mike, we'll start with you. Who have you got?
I made a mistake earlier in the season picking against Clemson against Louisville. If you remember, I thought Louisville had a shot. They had the dynamic quarterback in LeVar Anderson and is that
Lamar Jackson?
Jackson. And I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I am not falling for it. I know there's going to be people out there who are going to take Virginia Tech. They're at home dog, college football. I get it. I'm not doing it. I'm not falling for it. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm going with Clemson.
I'm sticking with Clemson here as well because Virginia Tech, they're 4-0, but aside from West Virginia, they haven't really beat anyone all too impressive, and even West Virginia, they just beat them by a touchdown. I cannot see Virginia Tech putting up that big of a fight against Clemson. I'm not saying they're going to be blown out, but I just can't see Virginia Tech really sticking with Clemson too long here. Shawn?
To make it interesting, I'm going with Virginia Tech this week.
Oh, no.
Oh, my goodness.
Just a little hunch. Like Mike said, at home, their offense has looked really good. The problem is the Clemson's defense is elite. Their front seven is pretty amazing, so that's going to be a test for them. But if they can stop them offensively, Clemson's offense isn't too scary. They can make this a game, maybe force a turnover, special teams. Could be a close one.
Mike, I swear, if you and I go 9-1 this week and he goes perfect because of this game,
I'm writing the commissioner.
you have to.
That's it.
You have to.
Okay.
Right straight to the Clemson AD.
That's it.
All right, let's move on to the NFL. We've got the Steelers taking on the Ravens in Baltimore. The Steelers, actually both teams here, 2-1. The Steelers lost in overtime to the Bears last week, and the Ravens got hammered by Jacksonville, of all teams, in London, 44-7.
Yeah.
Flacco benched in the fourth quarter.
The Steelers looked bad, and the Ravens looked worse. That's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Steelers didn't have they couldn't put anything together. The Ravens, 7 points against that team?
Right.
What's going on? I thought that team was all about defense, and where did it go? Where did it go?
It's non-existent.
Nah, come on. I got to think Pittsburgh wins this game, and I'm waiting for a big game for their running game. For Steelers, Le'Veon Bell, right? I mean, he's kind of like had some decent runs this year, but hasn't had that 150-yard kind of game. So I think this could be it.
Shawn, we'll go to you here. What do you got?
Yeah, the Ravens had like 30 yards of offense in the third quarter, so that's looked like an EPC North football game out there. So
I can't say you're wrong.
So they played in London on Sunday. It's pretty tough travel for them, and coming back, no bye week, right back home against the Steelers. It's a rivalry game. It's a really tough week for them. So I got to go with the Steelers, even though their offense has looked pretty mediocre, but it should be the Steelers game.
Yeah, the Steelers have not been as impressive as I think they should be on paper coming into the season, or at least as lethal as we kind of expect them to be. That said, I mean, I can't bring myself to picking the Ravens after a loss like that to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a good team this year. They're a better team this year than they have been in past years, but they're not a 44-7 win kind of team over an AFC North opponent like this. So I'm sticking with the Steelers here. I know they lost in overtime. I know that they've been a little bit down compared to the expectations, but Pittsburgh, I think, should handle this one pretty easily. Let's move on to our next game. We've got the Eagles at the Chargers. God, the Eagles just broke my heart last week. I was totally content with that game against the Giants going into overtime. Fine, we lose in overtime, no big deal. Frustrating, sure, but a 61-yard field goal with 1 second left? Come on. Eagles fans are annoying enough. I don't need to deal with, the longest field goal in team history came against the Giants. It's frustrating. Anyway, so we've got the Eagles on the road at the Los Angeles Chargers. That's weird to say. Eagles 3-1, Chargers 0-3. I'm sorry, Eagles are 2-1, Chargers 0-3. Shawn, we'll start with you here. Who do you have?
Yeah, coming off another miracle victory over the Giants last week. Seems like a pretty common letdown game for Philly here, going out west, playing the Chargers. Got to go with the Chargers. Their passing attack is pretty similar to the Giants, but they have an offensive line. They can run the ball. I don't trust Doug Peterson much. Some questionable decisions, so I got to go with the Chargers.
That's a really good point, actually. Mike, who have you got here?
I think Shawn's a very smart man. He really is. He knows what he's talking about, and I went with the Chargers too. I don't like the fact that, first of all, Philly lost one of their most dangerous weapons in Sproles with the ACL and the broken wrist or arm or whatever it is. But anytime you go across the country, I think it's a factor. Usually it's a factor when you come east, but let's face it, the Eagles got to travel now. They are coming off a good win, if you will. So I always think it's dangerous to play against this quarterback. There's something about Phillip Rivers. Whenever I think of tough guys, a quarterback, I think of Phillip Rivers because he's just dangerous. They got this running back who's scary, if you will. The defense always seems to be active. I think this is a trap game for Philly. I think Philly loses.
I picked Philadelphia to win this one, but not terribly confidently. I still have faith in Jim Schwartz's defense. I think, for me personally, I haven't seen anything against or from the Chargers offense that really scares me or really worries me. And I think the Eagles have done a really good job with their defense so far this season. But to your point, Shawn, Doug Peterson has made some fairly questionable calls and really even did so on Sunday against the Giants. Giants actually went on a 21-0 run there to take a 21-14 lead before things got tied up at the end of that game. So I don't know. I'm sticking with Philadelphia here. I think the Chargers absolutely can do it. Their two losses were both very close. I know one was by 2 points. One was, I think, also within 5. So I'm sticking with Philadelphia, but I wouldn't be surprised if you guys end up right here with the Chargers. Let's move on to our last game of the week, at least. We've got the Giants on the road at Tampa Bay. Giants sitting at 0-3. Buccaneers 1-1. Mike, we'll start with you here.
Yeah, do you have a coin? I want to flip it because that's how I feel about this pick. It's a game at the beginning of the season. If you said, how do you feel about this game? You'd say, well, the Giants probably should win it. Now I'm not so sure because you never know after a difficult loss like that where they are, mentally in the basement at the NFC East. Not a good place to be, especially this early in the season being that far behind. So I'm taking the Giants only because I feel like they will go into this game saying we can't go 0-4. So I'm going to go with the Giants here.
I tend to agree with you there. I'm going with the New York Giants here as well. I think if it wasn't for what they did in the fourth quarter last week against Philadelphia, I would be far more hesitant to take New York. But the fact that they were able to put up 24 points in that fourth quarter when they needed to fairly quickly gives me a little bit of hope that that offense has a little bit of a spark. The offense should not be struggling as much as it is right now. And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier today off the mic. They've got probably the best receiving core in the league. They've got a proven quarterback. They still have no running game, though, and their offensive line sucks, and that's probably why they have no running game. And that's bitten them a lot over the last, really, 3 or 4 years now. I'm still taking New York to take down Tampa Bay. I don't think that Jameis Winston is going to be able to pick apart the New York Giants defense, but it's definitely possible. Again, kind of similar to the Chargers game against Philadelphia. The Bucs can do it. It is a coin flip game, but I'm sticking with the Giants here. Shawn?
Yeah, McAdoo finally made some adjustments offensively, protecting Eli a little better with the offensive line. Quick throws, short dropbacks, no more like seven step drops. That protected him pretty good, and he was able to use his receivers. The Bucs are coming off a pretty bad loss to the Vikings and Case Keenum, and the Vikings wide receiver core is pretty good as well, so that could be a good matchup for the Giants. So I got to go with the Giants here, picking up their first win, and I don't think they're done yet in the East. So pretty much must win for them. So.
And to your point, Eli did look great at times in that game against Philadelphia. I mean, you don't score 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter without some great throws. So we'll see what happens there. So let's do a very quick recap of our picks this week. We've all got Stroudsburg taking down Pocono Mountain East. We've got Allentown Central Catholic over East Stroudsburg North, East Stroudsburg South over Pleasant Valley, Pocono Mountain West over William Allen, ESU over Cheney, Penn State over Indiana. I've got Clemson. Mike's got Clemson. Shawn has Virginia Tech taking down the Tigers. We've all got Pittsburgh beating the Baltimore Ravens. Shawn and Mike have the Chargers taking down Philadelphia. And I think we've all got the Giants taking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's all we've got for today's episode. Tune in next week for a new edition of the Pride of the Poconos as East Stroudsburg South boys soccer coach Dan Lewis and senior captains Daryl Longden and Jack Riordan join me to talk about their impressive start to the season. To find all of our links, you can find us on Twitter at Pocono Podcast, and this podcast can be found on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Please be sure to like, subscribe, or comment wherever and however you are listening because we want to hear from you, our listeners, and see what you have to say. And if you subscribe, you'll never miss out on our newest episodes. This podcast has been brought to you by PoconoRecord.com/contests. Last year, we gave away over $20,000 in prizes, so be sure to visit often to see what we're giving away next. Again, that is PoconoRecord.com/contests. That's all we've got for today. Thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.